Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We'll get started with our topic for today. All right, today's topic is all about progressing your exercise program. So you may be at home exercising and in touch with your cardiac rehab team. And as the weeks go on, you might be ready to start thinking about progressing your program. So I'll talk about how to do that today. And again, I am Renee Konidis, Clinical Coordinator and Cardiac Rehab Supervisor at UHN Toronto Rehab's program, Cardiac Rehab program there. And I'll cover why it's important to progress your exercise program, when to do that, how you can safely do that, and then something that you can think about for this week moving forward is to talk to your cardiac rehab team if you feel that you're at the point where you're ready to progress. So our ground rules for the session, a reminder, these sessions are for education only. Please ask your own healthcare provider or your cardiac rehab team for specific advice on your own program or situation. We'll be using the Q&A button, which you can find either the top or bottom of your screen. At the end of the session, you can type in some questions that I'll answer. Throughout the session, I will encourage a little bit of interaction, and for that, you can use the chat button for interacting in the slides, but then questions can be typed in using Q&A at the end. And I'll do my best to we'll answer questions as we can during the session, but anything that I don't get to, I will answer them soon within a day or two, and then they will be posted online with a recorded version of this session as well. All right, so why is this information important about progressing exercise? So we know from research that progressing your exercise will continue to improve your fitness. And having an improved fitness level is related to better quality of life and a lower risk of heart events coming up in the future. So the more you can push your fitness level up, the better protection you would have. Okay, why should I progress my exercise? So your body does adapt to your exercise program over time when you're doing the same routine for a few weeks or months. So it is important to keep changing that to challenge yourself. You'll notice this when your breathing starts to feel easier. You might notice a lower heart rate when you're checking that. And the effort level, so that RPE scale that we've talked about before from 6 to 20, where 6 is at rest, sitting in a chair, 20 is your maximum effort. We're hoping that your exercise is rated between an 11 and 14. So if you start noticing your overall effort is feeling easier, you're getting lower on that RPE scale, that might be a good time to progress your exercise. And again, as I mentioned in the previous slide, important to progress in order to keep improving your fitness. Otherwise, you'll just stay the same. Okay, so here are some ways that you can tell when you are ready to progress. So if your exercise is being rated as easy or fairly light on that RPE scale, that's a good sign. If your exercise heart rate is below the target heart rate range that your cardiac rehab specialist has advised you to work within, once your heart rate starts to slowly creep down after a few weeks or months, then you can challenge yourself more to bring your heart rate back up to target. You'd be ready to progress if you want to exercise longer, if you're interested in trying different types of exercise, or if your overall goal is to increase your fitness. You might have some new goals that you want to achieve or work towards. And so then I'll go through a list of a few signs that show that you may not be ready to progress at this time. So some things to look out for. If your current exercise program is already challenging for you, then leave it where it is. You don't need to progress. If you're going through a period of time where you feel unwell, maybe fighting a cold, an infection, anything like that, or if you have knee pain, joint pain, an injury like that, then not a good time to progress. If you've recently changed your medicine, so maybe started a new prescription, or if you've had any of the doses changed with your medicine, better to just keep your exercise steady for a week or two until you get used to the new medicine dosage, and then you can think about progressing after that. If we're noticing a big change in weather, so if you normally do your exercise outdoors and we're in the summertime and all of a sudden we have a really hot, humid week, that's not a good time to progress your exercise. Your body would need some time to acclimatize to the new weather. So that in itself is a challenge for your body. As well, if it's maybe the winter time, you're used to the cold weather here, and then you travel down south um, to a warmer climate, then again, not a good time to progress right away. Let your body acclimatize to the change in weather. Muscle or joint injury, so I mentioned that a few points up. So yeah, any kind of injury or feeling unwell, definitely not a good time to progress. If you notice that your heart rate is running above your target heart rate range that your rehab specialist has given to you, then your body's already being challenged and you don't need to progress, and it's not a good time to progress. Also, if you're going through a major life event, such as a really stressful time, maybe you're changing jobs, maybe you're moving houses, and you have a lot going on, not a good time to also change up your exercise and create another thing that's different in your life. Um, and that being said, during this time, with the COVID-19 pandemic, this is affecting many people as well. And this could be considered a major life event. Your whole routine could be off. You might be out of work right now, or your financial situation has changed. So I think I would consider that a major life event. And so if you're having trouble sticking to your exercise program right now, that's understandable. And all the more reason why not a good time to progress right now. But still good to be aware of this information so that as the weeks go on, hopefully you're able to get to a point where you can talk to your rehab specialist. Once you start to feel a little more settled maybe with this new routine, and progress in the future. Okay, so I'll go through how you can progress your aerobic exercise. So if we use walking as an example, the first thing you would do is increase the total time that you are walking. So if you've started off with 20 minutes, slowly every couple of weeks, 25 minutes, a couple more weeks, maybe 30 minutes, and slowly moving up from there. That's taking into consideration if you were consistent with your exercise. So walking at least 3 to 5 times per week. Increasing how often you walk. So if you are at the 3 days per week right now and you've maintained that, you have a good routine going, start to think about bumping that up to the 5 days a week, and that's considered a progression. And once you are walking consistently 5 days a week, your speed feels good, your distance feels good. Usually we say up to a total of 3 miles, maybe 4 miles for some people. That's usually enough distance per session. Then you can start to think about your intensity and going a little bit faster. And sometimes this includes some interval training for some people, where you can do a light jog for a minute and then back to walking for a few minutes and switch back and forth for the whole session. Again, you can talk about specifics with your own cardiac rehab specialist. Another way to progress is to try a different type of aerobic exercise altogether. So if you have access to a stationary bike or an elliptical, or even using a road bike around your neighborhood, or swimming if you have access to a pool right now, those are all different types of aerobic exercise. So you can talk to your rehab specialist about trying something different. And so anything different is a challenge to your body, so that would be a progression. All right, so with resistance training, also important to progress resistance training, because after you are doing the same exercise using the same amount of weight, your body adapts to that and gets used to it. So it's important to keep challenging yourself again and upping that weight or repetitions as you go through. So first way you can do that is more reps. So with our resistance training program, we start off by recommending 2 sets of 10 repetitions. So that's, let's say, a bicep curl, lifting a bicep curl 10 times in a row. Once those 10 repetitions feel comfortable, it could be a few weeks later, maybe a month later, then you can move up your reps and start to do 2 sets of 12 reps. When that's comfortable, 2 sets of 15 reps. So moving up your reps to a maximum of 15 repetitions per exercise. Once you get to 15 repetitions, and then that feels easy, it's time to increase your weight or the resistance band. So if you were lifting 10 pounds for a bicep curl and lifting it 15 times, the next step would be to lift a 12-pound weight and then go back down to 10 repetitions. And so you'll always fluctuate between 10 to 15 reps. When you get to 15 reps, up your weight and go back down to the 10 repetitions. Another way to progress is doing more sets. So when we first introduce the resistance training program, we'll ask you to do 1 set of the exercises just to get used to everything. And then bumping that up to 2 sets when you're comfortable. 2 sets is probably enough for your exercise. You could do 3 sets of the exercise. That would give you a little bit more benefit, but not as much benefit as moving from 1 set to 2 sets. Also trying some new exercises. So we have a standard group of exercises that we normally suggest for everyone to try. Once you've tried those and you're feeling comfortable, you can ask your cardiac rehab specialist for something new to add into your resistance training program. Just a different position or a different way of working a similar muscle group. And then changing out exercises. So same idea, just trying something different. So for more resources, you can go to the Cardiac College website, and on the Get Active tab, you can, if you click on that, you'll notice how to progress resistance training on the left-hand side. And on that page, it talks about, it lays out what I just explained in terms of moving up with your reps, moving from 10 repetitions up to 15, and then changing up your weight as well. And if you have purchased the Get Active booklet, or sorry, the workbook for the Toronto Rehabs program, the green Get Active booklet would have the same information that you see on the website there. Okay, so I was going to open it up to the group to come up with some creative ideas of how you can progress if you are exercising at home, where you may not have access to the same types of equipment that you normally would if you were part of a rehab program or at a gym, or even equipment in maybe your condo. I'm just going to go, yeah, so before we get into questions and answers, I'm going to go back to the aerobic exercise. So you can use the chat function right now. If you have any ideas to share with the group on how you could progress your aerobic exercise during these times when many of us are at home and not able to go out and do different things or have access to different types of equipment to progress exercise. So does anyone have any ideas that you can share? I'll give you a minute to type an idea in the chat box. So one idea I know that my colleague Rob talked about in last week's session is if you don't have access to weights for resistance training, to use water bottles. He mentioned that a medium-sized bottle of water is about 1 pound. And so knowing that, if you put some bottles of water into a grocery bag and have a good grip on that grocery bag, that's a good way to use to add some weight for some bicep curls. So I have some ideas coming in on the chat box here. One person has suggested to run up and down the stairs. Yep, so that's again, if that's that's quite intense of an activity to run up and down the stairs. So as long as that has been suggested to you or advised by your cardiac rehab specialist, then that's a good way to add intensity because you're going up an incline. Another person has said, again, walking up and down the stairs. So instead of walking on straight ground, same idea, use the stairs. Yeah, lots of options for using stairs. A step stool for step ups. Yeah, so as long as you have a stool that has a good wide base so that it's safe and that you trip on the stool. Yeah, using some sort of step stool could work for step ups, and maybe something to hold on to on the side, again, so you don't fall. Great. Thank you for those ideas. Oh, another one, a treadmill. So yeah, some people, you might have access to having equipment at home already, maybe in your basement. So good time to dust those off and make use of that during this time. Oh, great, more ideas coming through. So YouTube exercise programs. So there's lots of ideas on YouTube to follow along to like a walking program. That helps to just change things up as well. Using a broom handle for shoulder presses. Okay, that's good for resistance training. Jumping jacks, skipping rope, great ideas. Again, those are quite intense. So just checking with your rehab specialist if those are advised for you. For skipping and jumping, walking on the spot. Oh, someone's mentioned that you can buy TheraBands at Shoppers wellness stores in a pack of 3. So that's a good idea. If you're able to get out to Shoppers Drug Mart, you could purchase those bands. Thank you. Okay, and then I was going to ask for any creative ideas for resistance training, but it looks like we got a few ideas in this chat as well, with using a broomstick, where to buy bands for the TheraBands. That's great. Thank you for all of your ideas. Okay. All right, so I will open it up now to the question and answer period. So if you have any questions, you can type those in the Q&A box so that we make sure to capture those questions.
The first one, is it safe to climb some stairs?
Yeah, so climbing stairs is probably safe for most people. Again, good idea to check with your rehab specialist, depending on what level you're at right now. But in general, if you're climbing stairs, just for functional purposes, just to get to the second floor in your house, pay attention to your breathing. That's always the best way to tell how hard your body is working. So if your breathing feels comfortable as you're climbing the stairs, then great. If not, take the stairs slowly. When you get to the top, you might need to stop for a couple of seconds just to catch your breath. But otherwise, if stair climbing is comfortable normally for functional purposes, then that might be a great way to do some movement and aerobic exercise, but increasing the intensity a little bit more.
The next question, how about Tai Chi, yoga, and Pilates?
Great, yeah, Tai Chi, yoga, and Pilates, great activities. Tai Chi is probably a little bit less intense than yoga and Pilates. I'm not completely familiar with Tai Chi, but that's my assumption. And a lot of breath work, I think, which is always great to do. So Tai Chi, probably okay for most people. Yoga, again, there's varying levels of yoga that are available. In general, I would avoid doing any upside down poses or poses where your head is down lower than your waist. So for example, the downward dog position, that might not be advised for most people living with heart disease. But otherwise, light yoga, a chair yoga, yoga focusing on stretching, flexibility, breathing, that would all be great. Pilates, I'm not as familiar with Pilates, but I think can be a little more intense than yoga sometimes. But again, as long as you are making sure that your breath is always flowing, you don't ever hold your breath with any positions, then I think Pilates exercises could be a great way to exercise and try something different to progress as well.
Is introduction of grade acceptable?
Oh, like introducing a grade on a treadmill?
That's my assumption.
Yeah, that's probably. Yes, so if you're using a treadmill at a particular speed on flat level, instead of increasing the speed, you could also leave the speed the same and increase your grade level. So it's usually in a unit of a percentage on a treadmill. So trying a 5% grade would be making a big difference to the level of intensity. Just watch your joints and muscles to make sure that walking on a grade feels okay for, it doesn't cause any knee pain or hip pain or anything like that. And again, double check with your rehab specialist if including a grade is advised for you. And the second part, Crystal?
How about exercise involving movement above the shoulders?
So doing any resistance training exercise where you are lifting, say, like a shoulder press, where you're lifting up above your shoulder, it's not usually recommended for anyone that is living with heart disease, only because it can increase your blood pressure a little more than the other exercises that we recommend. So on a one-on-one basis, double check with your rehab specialist if that's something for you.
How many times a week should resistance training be done?
Resistance training is recommended at least twice a week is enough to get benefit, and spreading those days of, that you do resistance training, spreading them out in the week so you're not doing them on consecutive days. It's important for your muscles to have at least a day of rest in between before you try the exercises again. But if you really enjoy resistance training, you've got the time for it, maybe during this time when we're all stuck at home, if you want to focus more on resistance training, that might be a little bit easier than going out for walks, then go ahead and do resistance training every other day. So still allowing for that day of rest for your muscles. So it works out to 3 to 4 times a week. Or if you want to do a little something every day, you could do upper body exercises on one day, lower body exercises on the next day. So upper body on a Monday, lower body Tuesday, then Wednesday go back to upper body exercises. So you're still allowing those particular muscles a day of rest before you work them again.
And is it okay to do aerobic and resistance exercise at the same session?
Yes, so it's fine to do aerobic exercise first and then do some resistance training right after, as long as you have the energy for it, you're feeling good, no symptoms at all. You can do that, and it doesn't matter if you do aerobic first or resistance second. You can switch the order, and you can lay that out in the week however you prefer. Some people like to do aerobic one day, resistance the next, but doing them on the same day is fine too.
And the last question for now, is it okay to exercise until you are out of breath, stop, recover, then go again?
That type of exercise sounds more like some high intensity interval training. So again, that can be very specific um, program that's advised to you by your rehab specialist. But generally, I wouldn't suggest to exercise with so much effort that you're so short of breath that you need to stop and rest. That probably means you're working at a very high intensity. For some people, that might be okay. Sometimes we do some high intensity intervals where you work very hard for 30 seconds or 1 minute, and then you don't stop completely and rest, but you come right down to a much lower intensity. It's very important to keep your feet moving and keep moving a little bit, even if it's a really slow walk, as opposed to just stopping still suddenly. When you do that, all the blood can rush to your feet and it might make you feel dizzy or lightheaded. So no matter what kind of interval you're doing, your low level interval should never be a sudden stop. Just a slow walk is good.
Great, thanks, Renee. That's all the questions. Oh, just one more came in. How about swimming or aquafit after the lockdown?
Yeah, swimming is great aerobic activity if you are a skilled swimmer and you're comfortable swimming and you want to swim laps. It's a great way to get aerobic exercise in. Aquafit is great as well. Most classes will tailor and show you sort of a higher level option or lower level option. If you're not comfortable in water, maybe you can move to more shallow water. But all great ideas. The main thing to remember is that no matter what activity you're trying, that you're still maintaining your target heart rate range that your cardiac rehab specialist has set for you. So whether you're walking or cycling or using an elliptical trainer, as long as you're within that set range, then it's probably a safe activity for you and you're getting lots of benefit.
Is there a way of doing exercises on the floor and getting up easily, since I have had both knees and hips replaced?
Yes, there is a way to get down onto the floor and back up, a way that we recommend. It's probably easier shown to you than explained, but if you are already lying down on the floor, let's say you're on your back, maybe you just finished an exercise, the first thing you would do is slowly roll over to one side. Give yourself a minute just to get your bearings in case that makes you feel dizzy at all. The next thing you would do is use your arms and your upper body to push yourself up, still on a side, sort of leaning on your hip. And then at that point, hopefully you have a chair close by or something stable that you can hold on to. And then if you can get up into more of a on your hands and knees position, again, giving yourself a second to stabilize, and then one leg up at a time, one knee up, and slowly push yourself up to that standing position. We do have diagrams on cardiaccollege.ca under the resistance training program, and actually a video as well, I believe. So there's videos for each exercise, but there's also a video on how to get up and down onto the floor in a safe way. And that goes through the motion that I just described, but always better to see that in video.
I just navigated to the video that Renee was referring to. So on the Cardiac College homepage, if you click on Get Active, and then click on resistance training, and they'll be in the resistance training gallery. There are two videos. One is called How to Get Up Off the Floor, and the other is titled How to Get Up Using a Chair.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thanks, Crystal.
And there's the last question. This one is about how our Rumsey Center is functioning right now during the lockdown. So if somebody's hoping to get started in the rehab program, will a cardiac rehab specialist still be offered?
Yeah, so we realize that there's many people who have just recently been referred to cardiac rehab. And I can speak for at our center at Toronto Rehab, in the month of May, we will be starting up with some contacting those who are waiting a referral and having a session where they can initially get started chatting with one of our doctors to get a lot of information and history about them, and then linking them up with a rehab specialist to get started with some sort of exercise. So if you have been referred, stay tuned for contact soon, where we can hopefully get you started at our site. And it would still be virtual care, so you would not be coming on site yet. It would all be done over the phone or over a secure network using a video conference. And as well with your rehab specialist, you would have a weekly contact by telephone or email, but at least something to get you started.
Thanks, Renee. That's all the questions for today.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. I'll just finish up with a couple of slides here at the end. Oops. Just to remind you, next session, so join us again, same time, same place, 1 p.m. through the cardiaccollege.ca website for our session on Monday, which follows our mental health theme on Monday. And then something new that we are starting in the month of May is a session, a women's series that will be running every Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So anyone is welcome to log in and view these sessions. They are starting next Tuesday with a live online exercise class. And I believe exercise theme will be every first Tuesday of the month, but then following Tuesdays, lots of topics, women-specific health education on the other Tuesdays. So Tuesday, May 5th will be a live exercise class. So we welcome you to join in on that session if it interests you. All right, thank you for listening, and sure we'll be seeing you soon on future sessions. Have a good day. Thanks.